I spend a maximum of $1,000 per month in Nairobi while maintaining a high quality of life.
Our September budget is $3,165. We are going to try to come in at $3,165 or less. We would love for us to.
Welcome, guys. My name is Gideon. So today I'm gonna be doing this video. We're gonna be comparing two expatriates. Actually, what I mean is one is a couple, obviously, and then there's another gentleman. The gentleman is called Marvin Grainfield. I hope I pronounced that right. And the other couple is Saida and Jermaine. And what's really interesting is that these two entities, let me say that, because one is a couple, one is a dude, are expats who are living here in Nairobi, but they are coming to two different conclusions in terms of their cost of living. And I really wanted to do this so that you can show people I wanted to offer like different opinions so that you guys who are interested in maybe repatriating, you are more able to gauge or see how much you should be able to spend in terms of your cost of living. As we started, you can obviously see Marvin is spending at least $1,000 at the end of a month for his cost of living here, while the other couple, you can see it's $3,160, $65 or $200, just to round that up. And I want to know what's the difference between the two of them. I'm gonna be reacting to their videos which they're comparing how much they're paying versus how much they're spending, and I can also offer a bit of a review or recommendations to you who is listening, or even to them if they're listening. If you are listening, Marvin, come on, I'd like to do an interview, as well as Saida and Jermaine as well. So this is Gideon. I'm a real estate agent. In this channel, we do anything and everything living in Kenya. So in case you have any inquiries, any clarifications, any consultations, kindly reach out. You can check out on the description. And so let's hit it let's start on the rent side of it, and then I'll comment. All right.
Of living in New York, the rent can easily exceed $2,000 for a small apartment that feels more like a shoebox than a home. In Nairobi, I pay less than $900 for a spacious 5-bedroom house in one of the city's most expensive neighborhoods. I even have a big garden that grows avocados, bananas, and many more fruits, vegetables, and herbs, and that is something unimaginable in New York City. You can also find a nice 1-bedroom apartment starting from $300 in a decent area of Nairobi. When it comes to groceries,
let me pause on that. What she's saying is he's paying less than $1,000. I actually almost guess, because he says what he spends on other stuff, that you can almost guess that he's paying $600 to $800 at most. And you can clearly see this guy is living in a 5-bedroom apartment. I know where exactly that. I can imagine where that apartment is, but I will not name it. But I know it can either be a couple of places where it's Karen, Kitisuru, Gigiri area, and these are actually not even in the expat bubbles where most expats are living. These are really the high, really like the best of the best high places, places you can stay in, and he's paying less than $1,000. So I'm even imagining probably $600 to $800 at most. And he has a garden, he has avocado. Like, man, you have a garden, he has avocado. I mean, like, this to me is what is living the life. All right.
Our rent is basically $2,200 a month. You can find cheaper rent. We just found that this is the closest thing to our lifestyle before we left. We hear a lot of people on YouTube say they find cheaper things. I mean, we were in an Airbnb, it was cheaper, but the
Quality of living.
Yeah, quality of living was different. So we're back at this place. You can pay $300 and up. We just don't want to do it ourselves right now. So
this is what I've been saying. I mean, obviously these guys are paying $2,200 per month for an apartment. You can obviously they're living in, that's an apartment. It could be something else, but that's an apartment. I know that's an apartment because I know the other guy, that's a standalone house. You can clearly see that. So my question is, why would you be paying $2,200 for an apartment rather than $800 or less for a whole standalone house? Not even that. This guy is where he's staying is much more on the really high end as opposed to where these guys are living. I want to point that out. Obviously, one of the things I have to note for Saida and Jermaine is that these guys have just came in from to Nairobi in the last 1 month, and on the other hand, Marvin, the German guy, has been actually living in Kenya for at least 2 years, and that gives you the reason why they have really varying rent. One is because he's been here in Kenya long. He knows where to go and look. He knows where some of the best places to go and see, and that's why I usually tell even guys who are coming in, yes, you can go to the places where Expat bubbles. That is Kileleshwa, Kilimani, and all this. The houses are really nice. The apartments, though, but paying 2,200 for an apartment is just not, it just doesn't make sense even to us locals, right? So I usually tell people, yes, you can come and live there for a month or so, but you should not stay there for like 2 months paying 2,200, while you can pay almost half or below that, even below $1,000, and stay in your own house. I mean, for the rest of the $1,000, you can for $500, if you're gonna be paying a house for $800, for probably another $500, you can have your driver and your cook. Oh no, I don't know how much. I hope I'm not saying, I'm not underquoting, but it's possible. It's possible to live for $1,000 and live a really high lifestyle. Anyway, in terms of the houses, you just do your research. Do your research. Use people like us who are, you are on the ground here. As we say in Kenya, we usually say we are on the ground. Even better still, if you have issues of integrity, you're fair, maybe you might pay and someone, come to Kenya, take an Airbnb for a month or so, and then go looking for houses that are local. You will get the houses. Trust me when I tell you, for $1,000, even if it's still an apartment, you can get really posh apartments for less than 1,000. You just really need to have someone help you look out for them, right? I'd rather pay someone a small commission and but get a house that is not that much, because $2,000, 2,200 is on the higher side. All right.
Often felt like I was breaking the bank. Spending $100 on a small cart of groceries was normal. In Nairobi, groceries are way cheaper, especially if you buy locally produced goods.
So the next part of our budget is grocery budget, and the grocery budget is set at $400 a month, which is very close to our budget in America. Like when we combine groceries and restaurant budget here, it's very close to our budget in America. Hopefully we can come in under budget, but we are budgeting 400 USD for groceries. And I've found so far that groceries are actually more affordable here. And better.
Depends on what you get, because some things, like we had butter, it was 50% higher here from what
Dairy is higher here. Dairy is higher. Cheese, butter, probably yogurt, probably not milk. But cheese and butter are definitely more expensive here in Kenya.
You can definitely see the expat who have stayed in Kenya for long. I said this in my previous video. Spending $400 on groceries, it's a lot. I mean, it's just a lot. I don't know what I'd buy for $400, which is like 52,000 Kenya shillings for groceries. However, there's one key thing Marvin said that there's Saida and Jermaine haven't. When you need local markets, because I can guarantee you what they're buying at the grocery store is actually repackaged products being sold there, which are packaged in a fancy manner, and they're sold like 4 or 5 times. Because why would groceries be the same, almost the same in Kenya and in the States? That does not make sense unless so the only difference is where you're buying these things. This guy, I can guarantee you, Marvin, you spend less than $100 per month for groceries. Even if you're 2 people, the most you should spend probably for groceries is $150 at most. That's actually for a family. Why? Because you buy most of your local products from the local market, right? Secondly, he mentioned something that they've also mentioned, which is true. Processed goods in Kenya are fairly expensive. So when I say processed, is anything that is white, like powdered, whatever, cheese. These things are not, Kenyans do not primarily eat those things. So most of them are either made for export or exported. So for such, you're gonna have them being bought, being sold at a really high price. I usually tell them, if you really need to eat cheese, go and eat it on a restaurant. But buying it for your home, anyway, cultures are different because as Africans, there's stuff we don't really eat as much. Something else that I might mention: Kenyan food, Kenyan foods. Kenya has a lot of international foods. You can probably find any food in Kenya, but Kenyan local foods are usually quite bland, and I'll be honest, they're quite actually quite bland. So the thing is they are very healthy. So they're very bland, but they're very healthy because you're eating all natural food. If you're probably used to processed food, which is sweetened, um, you're not gonna find here. It is here. You're gonna find it at a higher price. But if you can get to eat the local food, it's more nutritious. It's definitely there's more fruits. It's more natural. I think it's better, right? All right. Let me hear on the other point. I think this is in terms of transport.
Was normal. In Nairobi, groceries are way cheaper, especially if you buy locally produced goods. Going out in New York can also be very pricey. A simple night out with dinner and drinks could easily cost $50 or much more. In Nairobi, I can enjoy dining out regularly at very nice places and do various activities for a fraction of that cost. I can spend $10 to $15 on a nice meal in a fancy restaurant, or around $5 in a decent location.
Restaurant expenses, which we budgeted at $150.
And the restaurants here are cheaper. A lot of times, yeah, the food, for the most part, is better quality. Just to be honest with you, more natural ingredients. But you have to set a budget.
So the next part of
Yes, I do agree. And actually, on those two ends, they actually agree. Food is generally not very expensive. Even if actually it's for the Kenyans, you actually say eating out in restaurants is very expensive. But for expats, I think 150 to $100 per month on restaurants, and depending on where you go. Of course, they can be as very expensive. You go to the international hotels; those are gonna be as expensive as it is in New York or any other place. But if you're fairly eating in a nice restaurant that is not overpriced, you're gonna be okay. 150 to $200 probably for a month, and that's for expats. For locals, if you're gonna be eating in local hotels, I cannot imagine you eating more than $100. And because most of us are either even cooking at ourselves, not eating out that much. So if you're into that lifestyle, restaurant lifestyle, I think both of them are really correct on that. It's not that expensive depending on where you go. Another thing, as I mentioned earlier, healthy. These are healthy foods which have been grown in a market. There's no culture of GMOs and any stuff. So food might be slightly more better. I know New York has a really reputable as one of them food international, whatever it is. It's one of the best food culinary I think in the world. So yeah, I think there's not much to say about that very well. I agree with both of them.
And just to give you another comparison, when I thought of taking Uber in New York, when I missed the subway, I could spend easily $50 or more depending where you want to go. And in Nairobi, you can take an Uber starting from as little as $1. And even for a 30-minute drive, it will only cost you around $10. So overall...
rideshare. So we budgeted this month $150 for rideshare. I think we're paying on average about $5 a day using Uber. Now, there is cheaper options. We could use Boda. And Boda is just a motorcycle taxi. We could also use Matatus, which is the public bus. But right now we're using Ubers because that just works for our lifestyle. The other expense is going to be...
Transport is fairly cheap in Kenya, in Nairobi rather. Fairly cheap. You're going to have ride-hailing taxis, Uber. There's even a cheaper one. This guy is saying Uber. There's even a cheaper version of that is Bolt. Fairly cheap. I don't think anyone can complain about that. Now, imagine if you use the public transport, but it's a bit of a hassle. But for the locals, I think you get used to it. Or you do a mix of both. You can really slash your cost of living tremendously down. So transport is fairly cheap. All right.
it costs you around $10. So overall, I spend a maximum of $1,000 per month in Nairobi while maintaining a high quality of life. This is already less than rent alone in New York, not to mention groceries, going out and other expenses. In New York, to have the same standard of living, you will spend around $5,000 a month. Then beyond the cost of living, lifestyle is another very important aspect of life in both places. New York.
Do we find any financial benefits to living in Kenya?
Not really, just to be honest with you. Like I said, reduced our cost of living, especially our rent.
So yeah, that's it, guys. I mean, you can see both. I mean, for these guys, they've been barely here in Kenya, so they're gonna be spending a lot. As hopefully, as they spend another 1 month or 2 months, they can learn their way out. Nairobi, the way I usually try to describe Nairobi to people is Nairobi has pockets. So you're gonna have pockets of everything. You're gonna have pockets where they have really nice hotels, pockets of not really nice places, pockets of really good hotels, pockets where you can get really good or some places to rent. So you just need to do your research. Take your time and do your research. Nairobi is not as expensive. People say it's expensive, but if you actually really look at the cost of living, depending on where you stay, depending on what you're doing, it's not a relatively very expensive city. And for those people who are coming to make, I really like Marvin because that is one guy who was found, who is living his best life here. So he's stretching his dollar to the maximum because he's under dollar. He's living in one of the best places in the whole Nairobi, where places local like us, you're like, oh, if I get to the if I ever get to live there, like I've made it. You know what I mean? So he's living there already for under $1,000. So I just wanted to do this video just to show. I mean, everything that you see on YouTube, some could be true. Just take it to just do your own research, find out. For Saida and Zamin, I hope they see this video. I really hope they get to make Nairobi their home for a while. I think they can get a better place. I think they can even get, for the budget that they are using, I can totally see them slashing it to like a half. Imagine if they is slash it by half. Nowadays they're using 3,165. Half of that is $1,500. You could live like a king for $1,500 in Kenya. You just need to know where. You just need to know the right people to show you, and you can live your best life here for sure, for sure. So that is it, guys. My name is Gideon. Remember to subscribe. Give me some comments if you think I'm off. That's not true. Give me some comments, and in case of anything, just check out my description. See you next time. Bye.